Hey guys, this is Darian from Darian Empire, and welcome to the very first of the series, Witch Baby Wednesdays, where I talk about my experience as a baby witch, which just means a new witch, transitioning from mysticism, spiritual, just really having a daily spiritual practice and a connection with spirituality, and being a spiritual coach and teacher, transitioning into witchcraft. So this video series is definitely for the witch babies and the witch curious. So I will be answering questions. I will be really just sharing my journey because I don't know everything about witchcraft. And this is, again, really for people that are just kind of starting off and for the people who've always been following me, who want something fresh, something new. I'm definitely going to have some new takes on magic, how I perceive the concepts behind witchcraft, and I'm going to be sharing my journey. So today's video is on how witches practice witchcraft. Let's roll it. Okay, so I actually got a question on my video called I Am a Witch Now. Here's my story, where I did a very lengthy 45-minute long video about how I've transitioned into now being a witch, into now practicing as a witch, and people are like, what the hell does that even mean? Some people were like, rock on. Some people are like, yes, I'm a witch too. Some people were like, we totally knew you were. Some people, kind of made fun of it and just made a really weird, awkward comments because they didn't know what to do with it. But we got one question that I was like, well, this would be perfect to do in the Witch Baby Wednesdays series. So let me read the question. This is from Mariana Bretado. I've seen a lot of these I'm a witch videos popping up lately, and I've watched some out of curiosity. None of the videos I've seen actually mentioned practicing witchcraft, and I know you said that you meditate and you've always felt a spiritual connection to this energy, but I was just wondering, how have you practiced witchcraft? So because I have a large following already of spiritual people who probably either already have a practice of meditation or I'm going to come and hit you with a stick, because if you've been following me for long enough and you don't meditate, then I don't know, you haven't been listening to anything I've been telling you. But I keyed. So I kind of want to give a little insight into, what really is the difference between just being spiritual and actually having a practice of witchcraft. What do witches really do? So the reason you probably don't see much of it, of what witchcraft actually is and what they actually do, is because witches are very secretive. Now, there's many reasons for that. One, because witches have a history of being murdered deep in our history. There have been millions of people that over time have been accused of practicing witchcraft or having something to do with witchcraft. Of course, it's been demonized and the whole thing. So there is this fear, I think, that was created in the witch community. And I think right now is a time where not just witches on earth, but also our ancestral witches. I definitely feel really connected to my witch sisters, is what I keep calling them, because I feel that they are my witch sisters on, beyond the veil, in the spiritual realm, in the spirit realm, that know that now is the time where it's ready for the witches to rise. So it's probably why you're seeing videos that are like, I'm a witch, because it's kind of, we could say it's becoming a trend now, just like the New Age spirituality became a trend, right? People started doing yoga because it was like super cool. But then there's actually people who really had a deep spiritual practice, and that's where the trend came from. That it's not that everybody's just jumping on a bandwagon, it's that there's a calling back to witchcraft, it's really deeply rooted in some of us. That's my explanation. I definitely want to explain that I don't speak for all witches. All witches are very different, and that's where I think there tends to be confusion. When I say I'm a witch, it doesn't mean I just like joined this cult and now I believe what every witch in the world believes. And I think that throughout the weeks and the months that I do this series, I think that you're going to get a sense that every witch is different. And that's what it means to be a witch, is that it means to be your unique self, which that's in another video. I definitely am going to do a video called What It Means to Be a Witch. Maybe next week I'll even do that and I'll really talk about what that truly means for people and for myself. So the reason you don't see probably many witches showing, what witchcraft even is because we're very secretive, for one, that reason, but also for two, the actual practice of witchcraft. It's all about mystery. It's all about discovering the unseen. It's about being able to shift your sight so that you can see things that many people don't see. And there is something very sacred about the unspoken, right? And so the reason witches don't speak about their spell crafting is because it can tend to lose its magic when you speak it to especially people that don't quite understand it. So there will be a lot of things, even though I'm sharing my journey, there are going to be many things that I would never dare share on this platform or on any platform for that matter. There, to me and to many, many witches, being a witch is very sacred. It is very intimate. It is very personal to that witch. Now, that also could happen within your coven. Now, I'm not a part of a coven, but I would assume that a coven, which is a group of witches that come together to practice magic together, I would assume that that might be somewhere that you would share those really deep, deep, intimate spells and magic that you share. So just understand that each witch's magic is extremely personal to them, and that is probably why you're not really going to get it all, okay? That's also why a lot of witches lean on their heritage and understanding. Are like, I have some witches in my family. I have people that have practiced divination. So kind of trying to learn about that, trying to learn about the history, and also really leaning on myself and my own intuition. That's really important for a witch. So there is no manual for how to be a witch. There are guidelines. There are different sort of, I guess you could say, religions within witchcraft that practice witchcraft. That again is probably another video that we can get into later on. But for instance, like Wicca is considered a religion. It was born within this century out of witchcraft. And there's also paganism, there's druidry, there's all sorts of different things that I could probably touch on if you want to know about those different things. But today I'm just going to briefly go over what it even means to practice witchcraft. Like how does a witch practice witchcraft? What does that even mean? This is like one of the umbrella ways that witches can practice witchcraft that is a really integral part of crafting. That one thing is divination. So the things that fall under the umbrella of divination would be things like tarot reading, somebody who is psychic, somebody who practices things like using a pendulum, runes, which is another form of divination, scrying, or if you've ever seen sort of the crystal ball, right? All of these things, and there's many other ways and forms of divination, but all of these ways are a form of witchcraft, which is really funny because a lot of people that could maybe be afraid of witchcraft, like have angel cards, and you're like, well, you basically are doing witchcraft. That is witchcraft. And they don't quite understand, and that's fine. I mean, I was there. What I realized when I became a witch was that I was already a witch. Like, I was already doing all the things that witches do. I just wasn't calling it witch or witchcraft. So divination. Now, the reason we do that is because we want to get messages from spirit, and we use any creative way we can to receive messages from spirit. So if you've used spirit animals, if you've, tried to say, okay, well, when this happens, this means this, angel numbers, form of divination. It's ways that we get physical messages in the physical realm. Sometimes it's just clairvoyance and it just shows up. But when it's clairvoyance and it shows up as visions, we're still seeing visions that are representations from the physical realm, right? So we're seeing people and colors and things that our own two eyes can actually recognize, right? We're allowing source to show us messages in the physical realm, and we can use that in very creative ways, right? So you can divine in all sorts of ways. There are many witches that really make it up, and each of us divine in many different ways, and each of us get our messages in many different ways. It's the same way that I have blue eyes and brown curly hair, and you might have, I don't know, straight blonde hair, and you have different features. You came into this world with different features. I'm good at singing, you may be good at, I don't know, writing. We all have different traits about us, and divination works the same way. It's like, it's our sixth sense. There's so many different ways that we practice witchcraft, but let's get down to the nitty gritty and talk about spells, because I think that that's really what people want to know about, is like, what does it even mean to be a witch? Now, I could get real deep into the different kinds of spells that there are. There's like banishing spells, there's destruction spells, which would fit, a banishing spell would fit underneath of that. There's constructive spells, there's attraction spells, there are curses and hexes. Not a lot of people use those. I mean, I don't want to say not a lot of people, but the majority of the witches that I have encountered are not doing what's called black magic, where they're hexing people and they're putting curses on people. Some witches don't see that as a bad thing. Some people see curses and hexes as, it's sort of like a justified hex or a curse, where you're making people receive instant karma or something like that. I'm not speaking for all witches, or really any, but a lot of the witches that you're going to see like online today that are practicing witchcraft, it's really like, it's light magic. It's white magic, or, we all call it something different, but there is within the Wiccan religion, there is a sort of rule of thumb that says, harm ye none, do as ye will. I'm not Wiccan, but we also have an understanding that what we put out to the world comes back thrice times, right? So if I'm putting a hex on you, I know that that's going to come back to me. And if I believe that that might be worth it, maybe, like if like Adolf Hitler was still around and we were in that era where, the Holocaust was occurring, yeah, maybe witches would put some curses on Adolf Hitler. And I'm sure that's probably what happened, to be honest. But when there's like something that could be perceived as like actual pure evil, that's where something like a hex or something like that could actually might work. But I'm not doing any hexes on anybody. I'm not cursing anybody. And trust me, I've thought a lot about it a lot of times. But when it doesn't feel good to me, I'm not going to do it. I need to do a spell that feels magnificent to me. So let's get down to just kind of like the basic nitty gritty of what a spell is, why witches do a spell, and like how that's practiced, right? So witches are all about ritual. Ritual is very important. The reason we do that is because we take the moment to stand in the present and say, I honor you that created me. I honor all of the energy that is around me. I honor the earth. I honor everything, right? Everything that is divine and beautiful and came from God, essentially. And so doing that ritual is just like you would do any ritual, just like any other religion does a ritual, it gets us into that mode, but it's like just a really sacred time for us to honor the elements, honor all of the entities that are helping us with the spell and all of that. So it's very ritualistic, right? So essentially, not all spell crafting needs to have this really like, you take a ritualistic bath and then you get sky clad, which is naked. And then, you have all of your spell work prepared and then you cast a circle, which is a circle of protection and brings in the elements and the energies that you need to help you with your spell. And then you cast the spell and then you close the circle and then some do wine and cake and to sort of celebrate the closing of the spell. Now that was just like a quick run off of what a whole spell from start to finish might look like. It's really ritualistic. I mean, it might take like, a good 2-3 hours to do a spell. Those kind of spells are, for me, I think like the really, really important ones, right? But I'm doing spells all day. I'm doing spell work all day. I would call it a prayer for you, but it's a really super intentional prayer. So it's almost like setting an intention and doing a prayer, but like times 10 for me. So I do spells in my tea every morning, right? So I'll say, I think about what I want to feel throughout that day. And then as I stir my tea, I'll put the honey in the tea. I set my intention. Let's say I want peace, love, and joy, whatever. That's just like a quick one. But I really genuinely think about, okay, as I'm doing my tea in the morning, I think about, what do I want? What do I want? What's the energy I want to bring to me today? And then I state 3 things. So the number 3 is very powerful in witchcraft. Everything is done in 3s. But so I'll say, as I turn my tea, I turn it clockwise, because clockwise is when you want to bring something towards you. Counterclockwise is when you want to banish something or repel something. And I'll say, love, peace, and joy I draw to me as I drink this tea. And sometimes I'll say that 3 times. And I imagine that energy going into the tea. And then as I drink the tea, that feels like it's a mini little ritual, but that feels like a ritual. So that to me is what witchcraft is looking like these days. Now, when I do a big spell, I am doing research. I'm researching online what are certain physical correspondences for an energetic thing. Essentially, what are my spell ingredients? What are the ingredients I need for a spell? And the reason we have ingredients for a spell, now, there's probably many of you that have been following me for a long time. You already know about the law of attraction. You're like, can't I just think about it and it will just happen? Yes, absolutely. But sometimes our faith is stronger when we have a physical thing we can touch, for one. Right? Sometimes it's a lot easier to touch a physical thing that sort of represents, let's see, I don't know. Okay, let's just take a candle, right? A candle. If I can open this. I'm going to talk about this is I guess, what is this? The Law of Correspondence? I don't know. There is energy all around us. And because as above, so below, as within, so without. What that means is there is an energy that is being represented by this here candle. So this is just dense energy. We know that. There is an aura about this. There is an energy. There's a thought that is attached to this. That is why the law of attraction exists, right? So when I think a thought, eventually I focus on it, I bring it into me, eventually it becomes a physical thing, right? I'm drawing that physical thing to me because this physical thing actually emanates that energy. So let's say when I light this candle, that is fire. Fire is an element that is represented in this candle when I light this candle. And it also represents passion, the energy of passion. It represents the energy of dissemination and transformation, right? Because something that could go up in flames becomes something new, right? It goes where does it go? I don't know. It turns to ash. So it represents so many things. That is the energy of our spell ingredients. So there are herbs and items and crystals and trinkets and all sorts of things in nature that represent actual things that we want to manifest into our lives or that we want to create. It's not always just about manifesting things, like attracting things. Sometimes it's about demanifesting things. That is the core of why we have actual spell ingredients. So when we sort of bring things together and we say, okay, this feels like this is a physical thing that when I think about it, it holds the energy of abundance, and I'm trying to attract money, I'm going to bring this thing into my spell crafting. And I'm going to use that not as like I need this thing because it's magical. It is magical, but not necessarily that I need this physical thing, but what the energy of this physical thing is, because everything is energy. So we really, as witches, we recognize that we just take everything and we bend reality. We bend energy. We're alchemists. We turn things into things. And we can actually physically, literally do that because everything is energy. The spell ingredients is the really fun part. I think that that's an opportunity to get really creative. And also who we pray to, what we do in our spells. Chanting has energy to it, right? When I chant something, when I say things that are methodical, when I sing a song, you feel a visceral reaction. Do you know why? That's magic. That's the magic. That's the energy, the palpable energy of a song, of a vibration of my sound and the way I throw my voice. That's why chanting is so important in some spells, right? So we do things like that. We chant. We ring bells, we dance, because that is vibrational. That's us shifting energy. So really understanding that it's not just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to throw some weird things together because such and such told me. It's, for me, especially coming into witchcraft and understanding it, it's really about, I had to know why. Why am I doing this? Why did I need a bay leaf? And why did I need, a stick of cinnamon and some honey and put all that together? Like, what is the point of that? Why do I have to carry these physical items that to me at the time were meaningless? I was like, can't I just think about it and manifest it? Yeah, you could do that. But there are plenty of times when it doesn't work because you're not practicing it long enough, right? So there have been plenty of times for me where I'm not manifesting things because I'm not practicing it long enough and because I don't have a physical thing to correlate it to. So we do things like we make little jars with these little ingredients in them that represent something. It's not about the jar as you see it. I mean, it is about the jar, but it's not about the jar and the ingredients as you see it, as somebody just sees it like, oh, that's just a thing. It's not just a thing. It actually holds magic. It actually holds, and it is energy, and it represents another bigger energy, just like Mother Earth represents another bigger energy, just like you and I represent another bigger energy. What you see isn't what you get, right? What you see is just a speck of the vastness that is beyond the physical, right? And so what I love about spell crafting and doing that spell work, and the reason we have those ingredients and all that stuff, is that it's like you're dancing between the physical and the non-physical at the same time. That's what it feels like for me. That is the basis of like what we do. We do spells. We also celebrate the seasons, essentially. We celebrate what's called Sabbats. It's the turn of every season, and then in between that. So there are 8 Sabbats. We celebrate Earth and we honor it, and we really, I think that I really described it when I talked about why we use ingredients in spell work, that it seems a little crazy and kooky, that we're like, a lot of witches are like picking up weird things when you go on nature walks and taking them for your spells. And, why do we have this? Why do you have salt? Why do you have, all these weird things? And it's not about the physical thing as you see it. It's also about understanding that as witches, we not only give something its magical meaning, we also recognize and notice the magical meaning that everything has. We carry things like mojo bags, which is ingredients put together that hold magical properties. You know, we create things like bracelets and necklaces to protect us. Every single solitary thing we do has a meaning to it. We do it with purpose. And for me, that is the very important part that is so different from just being spiritual, right? From just being spiritual and like wearing clothes because they look spiritual and, you know, wearing my malas because they look spiritual. And yeah, I practice with the malas and I understand what it means. And, you know, meditating every day and doing my journaling work and connecting with God. To me, that's like the gateway drug into witchcraft, you know? But to be a witch for me is to make absolutely everything a ritual. Everything has meaning. Everything. I mean, the clothes you wear, the jewelry that we wear. We not only put meaning and intention into everything, we understand the meaning of everything. Not all witches understand the meaning of everything. I'm still learning the meaning of everything, but to practice witchcraft, that's what it means. It's to turn everything into a ritual. Everything is spell. A spell is the words that you speak. That's a spell. A spell is a song you write, a piece of paper you write, a conversation you have, a relationship you have, the way you think about things. Those are all spells. And as witches, that is witchcraft. But we recognize it as such. And we say, okay, I'm going to be more intentional about it. We understand that when we think a certain thought, that this is what happened. It goes deeper than just being a seeker. So also another form of witchcraft is like healing and shamanism, right? So Reiki, things like that. Of course, Reiki is not actually witchcraft, but it is an energy healing. Reiki is like Japanese, right? So I don't know. But just as a, for instance, right? Shamanism that has a core in Native American culture, that's witchcraft. Medicine women, witchcraft. Healing. I mean, we're really healers, is what witches are, healers. We heal, we transform, we understand energy, we have a deeper understanding of the unseen, the things that the majority, the masses, don't have a recognition of, which is totally fine with us because I think as witches, we like being sort of, I don't want to say in the shadows like we're secretive or scared, but we like being in the shadows because I think that there's a part of us that deeply understands the magic that is in the dark, that is in the unseen, that is in the within. So that was a really long-winded explanation of what witchcraft is. I also I'm sure I missed tons and tons of things. If you are a witch and a practicing witch, I would love for you to share below what forms of witchcraft you practice. I mean, there are so many different forms. That really was just like, just barely even a tip of the iceberg. I don't know. I'm hoping that I did it justice because I feel like, but I think that that's for people that really just don't have any understanding of what witchcraft is. And I also kind of hope that I really I have a feeling that I enticed some of the more witchy curious folk to understand that, this is something that's juicy. It is so juicy. It's juicy and delicious. And to me, it's like there's having like an awakening and starting to live a life of spirituality. And then like this mastering that is for me being and practicing as a witch. And just understand that witchcraft is not a religion. That's the last thing I want to say is witchcraft is not a religion. There are people who don't identify as witches or Wiccan or pagan. There are some people that practice witchcraft that are Christian. The two can come hand in hand, but also can come separate, right? Just like spirituality and religion, the two can come hand in hand and they can come separate. Not all people who practice witchcraft call themselves witches. Not all people who practice witchcraft have the same spiritual beliefs. Not all people who practice witchcraft pray to the same deities. Some of them just have there's one God, I only work with the one God, and that's it. And some work with the different energies. There's just mounds and mounds and mounds of of information about witchcraft, and it goes real deep, and I'm just tip of the iceberg, and it's been like what, 7 months for me, and I've just been studying it, and even I've only like barely cracked the surface here. So that really is my own personal explanation of it. If you have any other questions, which I'm sure after this video, I'm sure you have lots more questions, just leave them down in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want to know more. Also, I have plenty of other types of videos that I'm doing all the time. My old Freedom Friday videos are getting rebooted every single Friday, so if you want to request one of your faves, you can do that. I'm doing tarot readings, and I also have music on my channel. Music, magic, and inspiration. There it is. We could get real deep here. I hope that you enjoyed this first video of the Witch Baby Wednesdays series. Again, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. Make sure you share it with all your witch baby and witch curious friends, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.